Good to meet you in person, as Jimmy Durante used to say. Do you remember Jimmy Durante out of your recollection or not?
Not having experienced it.
But you know the name.
Yes, I know.
Okay, it's hard to know what you all bring up from your understanding of it. And in the audience, welcome very much to. We have a guest, a very bright young man. We're really anxious to talk to, and that's James Lester. And he's a filmmaker, and he's got a specific film that we're going to show a clip to that he's involved with. He's also had an interesting life in his own personal experience, in touch with a lot of people within the music realm, including his dad, who's a jazz pianist and so forth. And he's a producer of, he's got a website that is dealing with this as a filmmaker, and he's got a very smart take on things cybernetic and otherwise. And James, welcome so much to conversation. Great pleasure.
Thank you. Very, very pleased to be here.
Now, Wood, young man, please, where you were born and raised a little bit, a way is to wade in, and then we'll talk about this, and we got a couple of clips for the show, but explain yourself, young man.
Okay, I'll do my best. Okay. I was born and raised right here in New York City, in the Bronx, very northern part of the Bronx by Yonkers. My family's in Yonkers now. I went to school in New York. I came from a family of artists. My father's a jazz pianist. My mother's a painter. They're both teachers as well. They teach their craft. And my father performs, my mother sells her paintings, that kind of thing.
What kind of painting does she do? I mean, she works in oil or acrylic?
She's gone through various phases. She used to do oil, then she did a medium called gouache, which is an interesting medium because it takes the kind of vibrancy of oil with the malleability of watercolor, or at least it's flat like watercolor once it's dried. Now she does a thing with paper where she literally takes the most thin parts of tissue paper and puts it into some kind of mixture where she can craft it like paint. So because they're so thin, the colors can mix, and it becomes one big thing that looks like an oil painting, but if you get real close, you can see it's all just made with paper.
Like a pointillist almost, isn't it? Or
not as detailed as pointillism, I think. But taking something where the details, once you get close up there, it's different than when you take that step back.
So you lived in a family that was culturally advanced, and they encouraged that.
If you want to say it that way.
Well, I would think. I mean, it's not as though he's just a clerk at a store selling nails or something. He's involved in the arts.
Sure. Although I would say my grandfather had a tire store.
Oh, well, okay.
In the Grand Concourse.
Oh, really? Okay.
And my father worked there up until I was a little kid, because it's hard being a jazz musician.
Oh, it's hard being an artist. I said to somebody, if some lady comes home and says, "Daddy, I'm going to marry a man and he's an artist," he would shudder.
Yes.
He'd say, because you're doomed to a life of poverty. Because the goods of civilization and arts are given very short shrift by and large.
Yes.
There are some efforts, there's always some stars that emerge, and they do very well and so forth. But by and large, there's all these people who want to be actors or waiting on tables and things. And the things people really want to do are not things that there are adequate venues for them to make an expression that has material reality in terms of economics and so forth.
Sure.
There's something wrong there somewhere, don't you think, or do you? I don't know.
I go back and forth on that throughout my life because, as you point out, you'll meet people who have these second jobs, third jobs, day jobs, who are actually artists, who've studied a craft. Maybe they're in a lot of debt from school, from study.
Increasingly,
And it's funny because I wonder, and the more I learn about history, the less I believe anything. I don't know, because I just, all I know is what I see now. And I'll see, for instance, I'm on the subway and you see a picture of Yo-Yo Ma. And he's a household name.
Of course.
What other cellists does anyone know besides Yo-Yo Ma? Nothing against Yo-Yo Ma, because Yo-Yo Ma is great. But there are so many great cellists out there. But this particular man, for whatever reasons, became
a star.
And so famous I don't know what he probably has other qualities that allow him to be in that realm of fame.
Right.
Because that's a lot of work too, to be famous.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah. It's also a cross to bear. It can be, but it's also a mark of success, and
exactly.
It might be good to be that way. But we live in a world of Tiger Woods in golf.
Yep.
Or down the line and everything, where we have star stockbrokers, or we have it's a star kind of society that seems to be. There's a place for that, and then there's a lot of people who would want to be a star, I guess. And
well, it's tricky in the arts. I would say sports.
In the arts, yeah,
sports is. I don't know. I love sports. I don't know that I could comment as much on it, but you do see the meritocracy in sports being what you've accomplished. If you're Michael Jordan, you're
there's something special.
Yeah. So, but in arts, it's trickier because, as I said, it's living in New York City. There's a lot of great cellists out there,
Absolutely.
and Yo-Yo Ma is the one that everyone knows.
That's right.
So it's a trickier thing. Or you'll see a production of a play or something, and you'll see some actors that are great and some. I have a friend who's a phenomenal actor who could have been perfect in that role. Well, his agent didn't get him that audition, and so didn't have the proper channel into that director, and that producer feeds off this agency and all these middleman things, and all of a sudden you're talking about a million things that have nothing to do with the craft or the production.
the art form. Or
exactly.
Like that, right.
So it's tricky,
Somebody once said, if I may, this is an interesting thing because it's like democracy. You can get all kinds of things. You can get, like the Balinese have a saying, right? Just interesting to think about your art. Your family was in arts and you are. The Balinese have a saying, we have no art. We do everything as well as possible. Now that begins to get to be toward a thing where the whole society is doing everything as well, raising a child, or a good meal, or just living. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that it's got a democratic quality to it rather than a star-studded quality.
Right.
That seems to be the way history's been done. We look back through history; they remember the emperors, but there were millions of people. There's an estimate that there were probably something like 100 billion people have lived on planet Earth, Homo sapiens, since it first appeared. 100 billion, right? And we've heard we have maybe 75 or something. We remember, the great Da Vinci and this kind of thing.
Right.
But it's a big issue. And another thing is, do you happen to know how many cells there are in a human organism?
I would guess a lot.
Well, that's very, very subjective. And could you be a little bit more quantitative?
I would say somewhere in the, I don't know, millions?
Just take a guess.
Millions?
You say millions, right? It's staggering. Not the life cycle, but the individual average is 100 trillion. 100 trillion cells, and it's the same in a frog.
Right.
A frog is a system, and it's got all these cells, and every cell matters at a level, okay? And it's all part of a system, and they all need to have a system where the barrier, or the semi-permeable barrier for the exchange of gases and everything to work. It's an incredibly complex system, and they all matter. I don't know if it's appropriate, but we have a star system where the system is all set up, it seems, for the few at the top, you would call it that. You had emperors in Rome, and then you had kings in Europe, the dynastic states, and all the serfs were just like chattel on their estate, wallowing around in the mud. And it's always been like that, a few people. Now we have a world where you have just a few people, stars that are so forth. So that dialectic between a democratic order, which includes everybody, and one that only trumpets or has any attention to the stars, is one that's worth thinking about from time to time, don't you think?
I definitely think so. I think about that often, as I said, especially in the realm of art and creativity. And I mean, just the fact that most people throughout their day, I mean, I'm myself included, you come home and at night the reflex would be, I guess, to turn on the television. And you turn on the television, and that's where you're bombarded with a star system, literally.
Yeah, right.
So if your whole day is, accumulates to that point where then it's going to be stars thrown at you.
Do you ever see it feel like you're walking around in a movie when you walk down. Do you understand what I mean? It's
Definitely.
like a movie, and it's like a scene in a movie that you're walking through. I just had a wonderful one waiting for a bus today, and these two women were having a conversation. It was just Academy Award funny and poignant and everything like that if you had the right camera angle.
Right.
And they were just having a conversation. One of the lines I remembered was, "If that dog, I love that dog." He said, if I'd had that dog before I had kids, I would have never had kids. They have unconditional love. I love that dog, you know. And it was funny, and I just picked up the line like a line out of a movie. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying, and there's a whole bunch of ideas on that one. First of all, I had an experience last night like that.
Yeah.
I was going to a show at the Village Vanguard.
Yeah.
Jazz show, but before that, I stopped and got a drink at a little place called Kettle of Fish, which is a nice little bar in the West Village. And a couple had sat down next to me, very good-looking young couple, and the guy was this British guy, and the girl was American. And from what I gathered, she was taking him to a comedy show.
Okay.
And he was not too happy because she was going to put him in the front in order to have him engaged with
the comedian.
With the comedian.
With the actors, yeah.
I don't remember exactly the lines they said, but it was great because the stakes were high.
Yeah, right.
He was about to be thrown into this thing.
Right.
He was clearly into this girl, wanted to keep the date going.
Right.
So
it's like a scene out of a movie,
exactly.
right? Yeah,
he was in a
and
bit
it's all
of a
being
quandary.
done in real time.
In real time.
Yeah.
Keep my ears perked up.
Well, you do because you're a filmmaker. You've gone down the road of doing. You had a great site. And it's, let me see, JamesLesterFilms.com, right?
Yep.
You got a site, and you're young and everything like that. You've been doing that for quite a while. How long have you been brought in filmmaking?
A few years now. In my 20s, I started really at the bottom. I had actually gone to school for music and followed in my father's footsteps, and was studying some composition, some piano, and playing a little bit and teaching a little bit after that. And then I had, in high school, though, grown up studying theater and was really interested in film. Okay. And ever since I was a little kid, loved movies, but like everyone, made little movies as a kid and that kind of thing.
What equipment did you use?
Well,
you ever did have to use Super 8?
Yeah, it was fun.
Really? Yeah.
I did. At that time, it was digital. It was still analog.
Oh, okay.
It was still analog. So what I did was I took a little class, and I forget where I got it, but maybe it was an old camera that the family had, but a Super 8 camera.
Oh, Super 8, that's old?
Yeah, well, I mean,
okay.
film.
We're talking generations here now.
Yeah.
I was talking about Super 8 film.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, no, this is Super film. There was no, until about 1970, there was no way for a person to do any television individually.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
That was a multimedia thing that was coming. They had a thing called a Portapack.
Sure.
So that's a big transition to where it made possible video to be made by people.
Sure.
And now it's galloping all over, morphing to the cell phone.
Well, what I did was not only did I make these little films where you had to process the film and cut it with a razor.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. On this little kind of personal edit suite that I could put on my desk. But then I saved up some money and bought a VHS a VHS camera.
A camera, okay.
And I would make films, edit in the camera, and you could run the tape back and overdub soundtrack and all this kind of thing.
Okay.
But my mother had she was a painter, so she had this little art studio, and next to it was a closet that was a walk-in closet she kept canvases in.
Yeah.
So I removed all the canvases, and I set up 2 TVs and 2 VCRs, VHS VCRs,
right.
And I would edit there, tape to tape.
Right.
But real poor quality.
Edit. Yeah, right.
But then I got a job at my school.
What school?
It was a school up in Riverdale called Fieldston.
Okay.
There was a counselor there who wanted to show a movie in class, but it was too long for the class, so she asked me to edit it down to an hour. So I was I produced and edited an abridged form of this film, tape to tape, on this.
Still have it?
I don't have it. I handed it over.
Oh, shucks.
Yeah.
You should have that, man.
Exactly.
That's a good one, right? Yeah.
But that was fun. That was the first, meaning I was learning how to edit without anyone telling me this was editing.
Yeah, just doing by the seat of your pants.
Right, right.
Yeah, and you're good at that. There's a term, autodidact. You're familiar. That's where you teach yourself.
Sure.
And I think there's something to be said for that, don't you? There's so much to learn. You know, there's no way you can learn everything, you know, but it'd be good to be able to see patterns. But if you're really interested in something and you are, rather than learning a bunch of rote things that they tell you to do in the name of education, somebody who's on the track like a hound dog on the trail of a fox, you really run it down. And that's an important characteristic of a creative way of being, don't you think?
I agree. Yeah, let's put it this way. There was a time where I didn't have much work, and I went to a temp agency. And at this temp agency, which is nothing that I've ever had in my blood to do this kind of office work. You know?
Right.
So they give you a course, this computer course, to learn all of this, you know, the word processing stuff that needs to happen in any of these jobs. And I failed miserably, even as I was studying them. Could not do it.
I understand.
Yet with some edit software that is fairly complex, it came very naturally. So, and especially because what you're talking about, I have footage. I need to know how to edit it into something.
Right.
I know that what I want it to look like. So let me learn some basic skills.
What do I have to do to get the result?
Exactly.
Yeah, right,
so that worked a little bit better for me. Same with music, actually, too, because I remember as a little kid finding a ukulele. It had one string on it.
Okay.
And I didn't know how to read music. I didn't know anything, but I sat in my room and learned how to play Oh My Darling Clementine.
On one string?
On one string, by ear, because you're just following the sounds.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. That's a creative way of being, you know, and you find workarounds and do all that kind of thing. So you did all that, but then now you're doing film, and now you're using, what do you acquisition footage with now, and what are you using to do your film work now, in this year of 2010, for instance? What have you got to? What do you like? What do you want to pass on to some of the people viewing?
Right.
Some hints.
Well, it's an interesting time. And you and I, before we were rolling, we were talking about this era and what the implications are. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on that, actually. But what I do is, as a lot of filmmakers are doing now, is things change so fast now.
Right.
So a camera that I had 3 years ago that was state of the art is now more or less obsolete, or you'd use it maybe for a textural reason.
Okay.
So at the moment, what I'm using are various HD cameras. I have an old Bolex 16 millimeter camera.
Okay.
And at the moment, I'm working on developing a feature film with 2 partners. And the idea of it is this guy, a kind of noir thing. Yeah. This guy who goes around town and he's in this time, but he is so attached to an older time of the 50s and jazz and bebop and all this that he's a narcissist, so he sees everything through his own eyes. Right. So we've been filming it on this old Bolex in black and white to give this
the feel
of that time, even though he's existing in this time.
But you have a character, you have an actor who's acting it out, right?
Correct.
And he's an actor.
He's an actor.
It's not autobiographic to him. He's just acting.
He's acting. Correct.
Okay, that's a tricky thing too in itself, being able to do that, right?
Yeah, he's great.
So you got a name for it, or what are you doing? What are you that film you're working on with the Bolex?
This one is called The Wrong Girl.
The Wrong Girl.
Yeah.
How many pieces have you put together? Or the over.
The thing is, a lot. I've lost count because I also do a lot of editing and some directing for hire. There's as we've been talking about earlier, before the cameras were rolling, there's a new need and a new market for the short form. So anything from something for a company's website or a promotion of something or a short story.
Because there seems to be shorter attention spans or patience for the long drama. Or
that could be it. That could be it. There's also just the reality that everyone goes to work and has their internet browser open all day long.
Right.
So they could be typing their emails or their documents and looking at a film as well.
2-minute thing.
Yeah, you can't. You don't have the hour and a half to watch a feature.
Yeah, it used to be YouTube, for instance. You used to be able to put up any length as long as it was 100 megabytes. A little bit of compression there and everything. But now I think I saw it wrong. Maybe it has to be 10 minutes only now.
Yeah.
And I thought I saw where you can have a thing as much as 24 gigabytes. Does that make sense or not? Maybe it's 2.4. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it was just huge amount of capacity because there's a lot of capacity and bandwidth coming out of the computer lab seemingly.
I just read that I think on any given day, or excuse me, any given minute of any given day now in 2010, there is 20 hours of democratic, as you would say, film being uploaded to the web. Every minute of every day, 20 hours of film being uploaded.
Okay, that would be an interesting figure to have in ink, you know.
Yeah.
If you get a link to that, send it to me.
I read it.
That's a factoid. I'd really like to know what that is, if they got it.
Yeah.
Because they do. I just had a fellow who works on site here. He just told he gave a review of how many times any program was aired here. What you can do with the algorithms in the computer now is amazing in terms of records keeping and so forth, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know much about the statistics part of it, but yeah, sure. With the speed of these computers, I mean, you have the new quad core. You were saying.
Well, I just got for me. I'm the older you are, the more mysterious it is. The computer, you can't. I'm very leery of it. I don't know what the hell I can do 4 or 5 things. But with the kids, I went with some friends of mine who are really good. Susan McIntosh and Albert Wilking. They're people here, and they're satirical comedy, and they do stuff. He does some animation. She's a great writer. I still think the writing is really important, if you get a property in terms of whatever medium. But they were there, and we had a meeting with a bunch of these creative people downtown Greenwich somewhere and everything, and they had the 7-year-old kid.
Right.
And there was a complicated computer. And the kid his feet couldn't touch the ground in the chair. And he had his hair up like in a thing with, they had a funny hair day at school. He had a thing like a porcupine, his hair, and he was playing the damn computer like Vladimir Horowitz plays the piano. And it was just so nonchalant.
Right.
And I was chagrined, and I was also encouraged at the same time. Because they pick it up like at your mother's knee, you pick up a language,
It's interesting because there is a generation below my generation.
Okay.
But it's really only a half generation. But I think
I don't
of it
mean
as a full.
How old are you?
I'm 34.
34.
Yeah.
Oh,
so I'm
God.
not that young.
Yeah,
anymore.
no, but that's a great age to be.
It's
Don't
a good
you
age.
think that's a great age?
Great age in New York City.
God, would I love to be 34?
Well, we'll go out.
Yeah. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, there's the kids that are, say, around, I don't know, between 18 and 22 now. 18, 23.
Yeah.
Even though technically maybe they are part of my generation.
Yeah.
I see them as a new generation, that my generation, people in their mid-30s, slipped through the cracks a little bit in terms of the real implications of the new realm of computers and specifically communication with internet. And all of these media devices.
Yeah.
So a young lady that I just worked with who's brilliant, her name is Lauren Jones. She's from Australia. Brilliant girl. She's been teaching me a lot about the new forms of social media. Facebook and Twitter, all these things. Yeah. Those are just examples of social media. This is let me put it this way: the stark difference between her generation and mine, if in fact they are generations, is that she told me that the way she saw the internet was a movie. And that my thoughts about a long-form film, 2-hour film, or say a 800-page book, or something where you have
big fat tome, Mr. Gibbon,
where you have a long arc that takes you in a linear way.
That's linear. It's a linear world. Gutenberg. Yeah.
Exactly. It's still linear. She saw all of these microfilms, these small little pieces on the internet. As part of one large picture that is the internet.
Well, very good. That sounds to me like pattern recognition. You know, it's like pattern. We're really very good at recognizing patterns.
Right.
You know, our educational systems want us to get all specialized out into something for economic divide and conquer, or divide and organize, you know, kind of thing. But in real terms, we're very good at recognizing patterns.
Right.
You know, it's like a pointless painting.
Sure.
You get away, you see the pattern.
Right.
And there should be, like I said to you just off the camera, I think there should be a department at the university of everything.
Yeah.
They break it all down into separate things in order to get specialized and so forth.
Sure.
But it's like a pattern recognizing capability. It's intrinsic to human consciousness.
Sure.
And I think you're talking about her being younger then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're good at pattern recognizing, and they would call it multitasking maybe.
Yep.
That comes in, that term also.
Yeah.
But you see a difference between yourself, 35 or 34 or something, and the kids coming in.
Yeah, the ones that are in their early 20s, that the way they see the world through the internet is, it's not like, for instance, I worked on a show where they were trying to make a TV show, one of these silly reality shows, right, for the internet, okay, like a little web series, okay, but they're trying to put a square peg into a round hole, so they're bringing their minds of long form, 22 minutes or 44-minute scripts, and shrinking it, just like compressing it into a 2-minute thing. Now, if you are 20 years old, you don't even think that way. You're thinking of just the new form. And the form, it's like an amoeba, it's constantly changing. So the internet gives you this new outlet to where the form is morphing. I mean, what is 22-minute story? That means nothing to someone who's just coming up. Or
they live in the moment. Maybe.
Yeah, or to someone who only knows, who doesn't even know what it's like to live without a cell phone, who has no memory because they were born with a cell phone, text messaging, everything moving completely instantaneously at all times, constant communication.
Right. And it's happening, it's all coming out of the technological extension and everything is moving almost exponential. Right. I mean, the input is coming. The rate of the increase of the change is coming. It's coming at like a quickening in a pregnancy or something, or in a punctuated equilibrium in evolution of species and so forth. You have quantitative change within a steady state, or more or less steady state, and then there's a quickening, and then there's a quickly, and the new emerges. The new emerges. And so it's happening very quickly, and we may be at that point in terms of the broader, inclusive whatever humanity's purpose or whatever we're here about, what's it all about, Alfie kind of thing, we're maybe at a time of a qualitative transformation. That's what Asimov said was characteristic of this time. Like punctuated equilibrium, a new condition about to emerge, almost like metaphor with the species that appear newly in the evolutionary process itself. We're going through a quickening or something. Do you sense that we may live at a time of qualitative transformation?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, just look at things have changed in just 5 years' time. I mean, you're talking about...
And the rate of the change is increasing.
The exponential. It's interesting you said the exponential, because I'm not going to be able to give good figures because I'm not that kind of person, but I was talking to a good buddy of mine the other day who knows a lot about how computers get manufactured and how they advance, and the lifespan is 18 months. Basically. So each one, though, I guess we were talking about it in terms of storage. So for instance, 5 years ago, I remember working on TV shows, and in order to edit them, the amount of storage you needed for the digital media was literally half a room. Stacking these hard drives on top of each other.
Right.
For the same amount of storage, right now, today, only 5 years later, you'd need it, maybe the size of this cup.
Yeah, I know, and it's heading for carbon 60. 60 is going to emerge in about 2 or 3 years, I think. It's going to replace silicon. And it's going to have the properties for moving information is going to be expanded. And it's going through a really qualitative transformation. And the people the young pick up on that almost, it's, again, back to that it's hard to get to a metaphor, but it's like some sort of a new qualitative transformative moment is characteristic of the time in which you and I sit here and talk in March, or almost March of 2008. Now, people probably thought that way back in the 12th century or something, or Cro-Magnon cave. They probably saw it and said, these are really interesting times. The mastodons are getting big.
I don't know about in the 12th century.
Yeah, no, but you understand what I'm saying. We've been here 200,000 years. We more or less could agree on that.
Right.
So after 200,000 years, 10,000 generations, this one is the singularly most significant and that there will be reckoning 1,000 years from now if we don't join entropy. And let's say the weapons unleashed would destroy the whole species and cut off this whole evolutionary process that is consciousness evolution, apexed by mankind. We may be at a point where we have the capability now to wipe it out, the whole of the species, entropy. Or we might be at a point of liberation from, in terms of institutional structures and so forth, of the whole system of 7 billion heading for 10 billion population within a proper ecological context that would be roughly equivalent to a liberation where everybody's able to realize their full potentiality rather than being fit into like quasi-chattel slave functions within a system that's all motivated by economic criteria that's set by a few leaders like always it has been.
Right.
A democracy, a real democracy, a functioning democracy of everyone in a certain sense in a liberated state doing what it is they have their own inner inclination to do, like all artists might have, if you understand what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I will say what is amazing about this time with how technology has come is that it's granted filmmakers specifically. I can speak on that train.
Right.
The ability to make their films and disseminate their films.
Right.
To an audience that they may be able to find quite a large audience for free.
Yeah, for free.
Distributing for free.
Right. It's
maybe,
amazing.
Maybe $10 for your website or whatever.
Yeah.
Every 3 months you
pay
it.
Right. No, that's true. And it used to be to do what you can do, like say just YouTube or streaming. You can stream free now. You can set up a channel. It would have been, I can testify 20 years ago, it would have been thousands and thousands of dollars to do it with a transponder on a satellite and all this stuff. And we've gone through iterations in that. It's all moving in that direction. And you can do almost anything you want for almost free now.
Right. And
there's a liberation in that, I think, don't you? Or do you think? Some people think it has to be done for the market, and the thing that gives satisfaction to people is the success. If you were the best golfer in the world, it wouldn't count unless you get a $200,000 reward for getting that cup.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's all tied into economics.
Yep.
And economics are crucial to everything in a sense, I think.
Yep.
Okay.
I think that's an interesting topic too, because it brings up the question of what is your worth, or what is your work's worth.
Yeah.
Too, because I mean, if you become a big star and a big success like that in that realm, you'll get one thing for it. If there's now this whole internet stardom.
Yes.
Where you can you become a big star on the web, which doesn't seem to match financially though yet.
No, not at all. Or
it's almost like being popular kid in class.
Well, it is, isn't it? When you go back to the thing, 100 trillion cells in the human organism, they all matter.
Right.
So if you kind of morph over to a human experience, everybody or an orchestra. You got an orchestra, and they're going to play it out. You got media to extend that orchestra, and all you've got is a situation, let's say in the current economic thing. They're arguing economic theory and so forth. And all you hear are the tubas, because there's no microphone for the timpani.
Right.
You can't hear the timpani. You can't hear this. You can't hear the full range of it, because there's just not any projection of, let's say, the qualities of the people, because nobody cares about the people. They're only listening to the stars who are saying, "Here I am, follow me."
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? That's a pattern out of history, and it may be a time where you have to have a collectivist thing. That's why I like access, because you got a lot of people being able to contribute to it, and it might be characteristic of the time in which it's a seeming conundrum, but it also might be, it could be on the positive side, we have actually transcended scarcity as an ontologic reality. There is enough for everybody. We've lived in a world where there was never enough. It had to be, if I win, you lose. zero-sum, and we may have actually transcended that at a level of capability, and all our institutions were formulated within a context out of history that has been qualitatively transformed at the level of capability, and the youth are picking up on that, and the artists, as intended of the race, of that new capability that's emerging. They're feeling it blowing in the wind, Bobby Dylan said.
Yeah, and the thing about all this, if you liken I like the analogy to the orchestra.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, all of this stuff is much more chaotic and anarchic than an orchestra. We want to achieve the balance of tonality and volume in an orchestra. It's not like that yet in at least, I don't know if you're talking about specifically on the internet, but...
Well, in the world in general. I mean, it's just the world isn't ready for that. Right. I mean, they're having a hard time because you inherit all the just architecture.
Yeah.
They only let Galileo off the hook about 12 years ago, the Catholic Church,
right,
for saying we're not the center of the universe because people's identity were wrapped up in that view of the universe. So it took a few hundred years to be able to come up to what the new reality was. And now we're going through this new reality that's emerging, you know, at a species level. You have to get to another level.
Did you see the other day, there was I think it's the anniversary, I forget what, maybe it's 20-year anniversary of this photograph that was taken from way out in space. Oh,
Hubble?
Yeah.
It was a Hubble. Hubble knocked me out. Yeah.
It shows the Earth. Mm-hmm. The only, you know, what we thought of the definitive photograph of the Earth was the one where it's right in this big center.
Yeah, the big blue dot.
Yeah,
big blue. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's lit by the sun perfectly. It's almost like a movie. It's like
let's
bring in the great
lighting
light.
engineers. Yeah, what are
and
lighting?
We'll shoot it. Here's the great angle, the hero shot.
Yeah.
And that's the Earth. It fits perfectly. It's huge.
The frame.
Yeah. And then this other picture emerged of the Earth that is so small.
Yeah.
It's like a speck of dust.
Yeah, I know.
And to see it from that distance.
Yeah.
Well, perspective.
Yeah, they got a great thing. I could send you a link to the power of 10. 10 to the 10th power going in and out in the universe and then down into the microcosm.
Oh, wow.
It's really, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Okay? It's really a good little, it's on my site. You could find it.
Okay.
Anyway, listen, we're getting astray because you're too damned interesting.
Okay.
And it's too interesting. It's your fault for being interesting. If
All
you were
right.
dull, it would be a lot easier to plod along. But you're too interesting. But your work. Let's talk about it. We got a couple clips we want to get to. Talk about your work. What do? You got one about, you got a specific film you're talking about.
Yep.
But talk about your work, and we got a couple of clips that we want to, as they say, set up and let the people see.
Well, I brought two clips of films that I've directed. As I said, I had a few others, but there were some rights issues. So these films I own. And one of them is a clip from a short documentary I did on a legendary jazz pianist named Sal Mosca, who was more relatively unsung hero of the piano. He lived a very hermetic life up in Mount Vernon, which is just north of the Bronx.
Did you know your dad?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yep. And was an extremely interesting man, a genius improviser, piano improviser.
Okay.
So I got to do a documentary on him right before he passed away.
Okay.
Which is great, and it won a little best documentary award at some festivals, which was nice to receive.
Yes.
So that's the first clip I have.
Those little recognitions are important, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Even if they don't carry money.
Right. Well, they're all.
You get recognition of your peers.
Yep.
I know artists. A lot of artists don't care what the people think as long as the poets really understand. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Sure.
There's different layers of recognition.
Yes.
Okay, you got a clip of that. You want to show that now, or
sure. We could show it. You'll see it. It's sort of. It's a lot of music going on. He explains a little bit about. His first recording experience back in the 40s.
Right.
And what's remarkable to me about this moment, I hope it comes through in the film, is that he, even at age, I think he was 78 or 80 when I shot it.
Yeah.
as he recounts the story, he still feels that nervousness of a young man on his first record date.
Yeah, right.
And he tells it as if he's right there back then.
Okay.
And you can see that. And then when I cut to some of his music, and it doesn't match up the nervousness to the music, because the music's very powerful.
Okay. Well, what is it, a couple minutes or something?
Yeah, it's a couple minutes.
Couple-minute clip. So we're talking again with James Lester, and let's see if we can't set that up and run that little piece of tape, a couple-minute piece. So run that now, if you would, please.
My first record date was June 30th, I remember this very clearly, 1949. And it was for a label called New Jazz. And it was with Lee Konitz, Warren Marsh, and
so this camera that
I was so nervous. The record date was at midnight. It was from midnight to 3 in the morning. And a friend of mine, Ted Rosen, drove me downtown. And he said to me, Sal, you know, you're so nervous. How are you going to play? I said, I don't know. So I walked into the studio, and Lee saw me, and he said the same thing. He said, Sal, what's the matter? Did you get stoned? He said, you look so out of it. I said, no, I didn't get stoned. I'm just nervous. But as soon as I sat down, started to play, the nervousness disappeared, and I just got into the music.
That's beautiful, man. That's lovely. What a gorgeous guy.
Yeah.
He was a friend of your dad's, right, even?
Yeah, that's how I knew him.
Good for you. That's really beautiful. That was gorgeous, yeah.
And we're lucky because, as I said, he, after we filmed it, we were going to do more, and he went on a little tour in Europe, and that just...
tired him out, huh? Right.
Tired him out. He was a little sick before, and so he passed away shortly thereafter. But it's
isn't it wonderful you were able to get this down?
Yeah.
And that's part of a longer piece, or what? Now,
yeah, part of a longer piece.
How long is the overall piece?
It's about 10? The film itself is only about 11 minutes.
Okay, right. Okay.
But then I have an edited interview of him about 40 minutes.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Yeah. Have you put it together on a DVD or anything?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what to do with that footage though, because it's one of a kind, and I don't want to just throw it around.
Away. Yeah,
you know?
Right. Yeah. So you give thought to that distribution and everything. Yeah, you think about it very seriously.
Yeah,
that's very good.
Yeah,
that's good. And so you keep working away with it and everything in terms of that. Now, I wonder if maybe we could bop right along, as they say, because you have another piece that you're working on. It has to do with a vaudeville team or something.
Yep.
And maybe we could segue into that and make sure we get it in and everything, because you have
I'd
another
love
clip.
to. Yeah, this is a piece that's alive and well right now, and we're doing it. We're trying to do a serial for the web. Okay. But what we looked around at, my partners and I, who are named Jesse Gelber and Kate Manning, and they are a real life wonderful jazz duo. He's a pianist. Yeah. She's a singer. She has a Broadway background, so she's also an actress. Yeah. And they do these vaudeville shows around the city. And this whole vintage 1920s world has become popular again. Okay. So anyway, this is the first. This is a clip from the first installment of our web series. Called Gelber and Manning in Pictures. They play themselves, and it's about a vaudeville duo who's plucked from this little club that they work at by a big, movie guy, movie producer.
Sign them up.
But we've actually done a little research. We're playing around with we're having fun with the lowbrow movie producer. In the 20s, there was a street in Hollywood that they dubbed Poverty Row.
Really? Okay.
Which was all these one-man band.
Right.
Production companies,
and things,
similar to today.
Right.
And actually, Walt Disney was one of them.
Really?
Yeah. So some of these people became huge. Anyway, our guy plucks the vaudeville duo, says, "All right, I've got some money from these gangsters to make this film." So we're just having fun with that.
Okay, and you're making it as a series now. On the web.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's on if you want to go to see it on the web, which is, it looks really nice. We have a website, just gelberandmanning.tv.
Gelberandmanning.tv. Yeah. Okay, and this piece this is a little longer, right?
This will be a couple of minutes as well.
A couple of minutes as well. Okay.
Yeah, this takes place in the what's it called? The club that they work at normally, and it has a whole table of sophisticates who we use as our little Greek chorus to tell part of the story as they perform.
So like the Algonquin Round Table or something.
We call
like
them
that.
The Algonquins.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah,
okay, it's a small world. Okay, well, we're again talking to James Lester. Let's set up and run that piece. Manning and Gelbert and Manning.
Yep.
Okay,
yes, sir.
Let's see if we can't run that piece too.
Autumn's coming and I am humming a sad and sorrowful tune. Gypsies out in the park singing the dark, yearning for June. And Mr. Monaco will play his final show real soon. Paint is peeling and through the ceiling a lonely radio player. Old folks sitting they smoke, hungry and broke in their armchairs. And Mr. Monaco, he's built a bungalow downstairs.
You know, she used to be Miss Darling Maisie Manning.
Who?
Oh, Lord. They're so young.
I'm sorry, girls. If Roger possessed an ounce of manners, he would have explained that Manning used to be a child star on the Orpheum circuit.
I don't find children particularly darling. They always grow up to disappoint.
Jealousy doesn't become you, Lily.
Well, it's true she can carry a tune, but somehow she doesn't quite grip me.
Who? Darling Maisie Manning, my dears. She's fucking the piano player.
So when the moon casts her shadow on those figures down by the pier, you'd better bow your head and soldier on, 'cause wise men don't interfere.
That's great. What a great set. You went out in Jersey somewhere. You found that place. I mean, that was really top notch.
Yeah. Well, I have a great cameraman named Jay Sung, who's also a director. He's just a great filmmaker. He lit the thing. I mean, it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
The place is actually out in New Jersey, in a town called Belvedere, and it's called Joanna's Showtime Boutique.
I'll be damned.
And she's a wonderful woman from the Netherlands who's been here for a long time, and she set up this little shop. She does everything from, hosts these wonderful musical cabaret nights to, selling little antiques and to sewing girls' prom dresses.
So you had
a
ready-made set,
ready-made set.
You put some set and everything, and then people put them in there and oil.
Exactly.
That's wonderful to get that. That's really great.
Oh,
there's a lot of good sets around, aren't there? If you think about it, you can do all kinds of things So you had the Algonquins, like Dorothea Parker and James Thurber, that crew and everything. It was great. It was really beautifully well done. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Well, everyone, they wrote the song. Gelber and Manning, they wrote that song, which is a fabulous song.
They work together on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're a real-life couple, romantic couple, and in the film a romantic couple, and they're a real-life duo, and they work around town, and they're constantly doing shows.
And you're trying to develop this as a internet thing. Now, explain that a little bit to me, if you could. What are you seeing? You're seeing a series?
It's a series in which we find this duo, get deeper and deeper into this crazy world of cinema and gangsters.
Okay, and you've got this one.
Yep.
The piece, the one that you got in the can.
Yep.
How long is it? And do you see it as there will be chapter 2, chapter 3,
exactly.
chapter 4 you're going to do?
Well, this is where
it gets to be. You got to keep all those people in touch. Can you keep in touch with the same set? You have to do it.
Yep.
It gets to be a big project.
It is exactly a big project. We're looking for a sponsor right now, actually, to be honest, because we've set this thing up. What we didn't want to do a web series that was run and gun. We didn't want to do
run and gun,
where it's just kind of not well produced. A couple of us with the camera.
Right.
A lot of people
that goes
have web series that work that way because it's made for that. Maybe something current, comedy.
But you want some production value.
We wanted production value, and in fact, what we've found is that it has brought us a little bit higher up in the mix of all of these things out there because there's fewer web series that are trying to go for a high production value. So we painted ourselves in a little bit of a corner because we self-funded this thing, and it requires some money because to get it to look that way. But
does it require a lot of money to get it that way? If you come up on the set and everybody's cooperating, does it have to be a lot of money? Because the people are doing it to make money often, and they want to have the money,
right?
And I'm just saying.
Let's just put it this way:
you got the perfect set, you got the camera,
gear,
the guy knows what he's doing. You don't have to rent. You got the stuff. Let's say you could go out and make something pretty. Pretty good.
Yes, you
with
can.
the cameras that are there because the technology is there now. And if you had a commitment to a thing and an idea and you wanted to express it and everything,
that's true.
I'm just not sure that those high budgets are absolutely. Are they DreamWorks, Spielberg?
Right.
They have to use certain things.
Well, we're talking about when we talk about high budgets, are we talking about $1 million? Are we talking about $1,000?
Right.
If it's out of your pocket and you're you're a normal guy,
you're not an Astor.
Yeah,
or
if
Rockefeller.
A couple of grand is a lot out of your pocket. So you want it, but we're looking to make a full series, about 10 to 12 episodes.
Okay.
At this point, each one very short.
Right.
The first episode is 10 minutes long. We had a great opening party down at this place called Duane Park, a great restaurant and venue. With a stage, and we had the burlesque acts, and we had musicians, and all these people came.
Wish I'd known. I would love to have been there.
To
have the Algonquin crew around.
They were
talking to Dorothea Parker.
They were there. The Algonquins were there.
And were they getting into character? Did they try to get into character in the 30s sense? Because there was that feel to it.
Yeah. Well, if they weren't in character, then I would have been very suspect.
Dorothy Parker wrote that wonderful story. You were perfectly fine. Do you know that one?
Yeah.
You guy was hung over, and he said, Oh, it was terrible. She's, no, darling, when you got up on the table and danced, everybody thought you were perfectly fine. And when you put the lampshade on your head, that's funny. There was a cleverness to the writing, and Thurber was out of sight.
Oh, man.
Did you try to key off some of those people from that era, which is you're dealing with that era?
Yeah.
You want to get the feel of it and the writing and the nuance and everything like that.
Well, what we do is we all...
That's being picked up on in current society, that period?
Yeah.
You're ahead of the curve
It's
there.
a big scene now in New York and probably elsewhere, but I just know in New York the whole speakeasy has come back.
Has it? Yeah, okay.
With the style of the speakeasy, and gin is in.
Gin is in, is it now? Okay. Okay.
And burlesque shows and vaudeville shows and ragtime music.
Ragtime, yeah.
Jazz, and maybe they didn't even call it jazz then. I don't know, but it was whatever that music was, that's what's being played now. So this gentleman, Jesse Gelber, he's one of the best stride pianists in the city. A stride pianist is, I don't know if Fats Waller, James P. Johnson.
Okay, yeah.
Those guys back in the
Not
early...
Jerry Lee Lewis.
Not Jerry Lee Lewis. He was more boogie woogie.
He was boogie woogie,
and
he was running. He was running, yeah.
Whatever he was. But the stride piano, the reason they call it stride is because the left hand is moving so much.
Yeah,
it's doing it.
I see.
Boom, choom, boom, choom, boom, choom, to keep the rhythm and the bass and the chords all together. The left hand does that, and they call it a stride.
But you captured the era so well. It was beautiful, really well done. Congratulations!
Thank you.
You got a feel for it. You got a good cameraman you work close with.
Yeah.
Right? Constant. You guys work as a team in that.
Yes, we're now working together a lot.
Do you have lines? Or is it spontaneously being done? Do they do it? Do you have
in this piece?
Yeah.
Oh no, there's screenplays. We write.
You have the writers. Then.
Myself.
You write?
Gelber and Manning.
You get the property your own.
Yeah, we
might as well go to a good source.
We're co-creators, so we were all split it in three.
And how many of you are there? Or the three
the
of you?
Three of us
created on that project. You work with
project.
other people on other projects than that?
Yeah,
and people that would have the expertise that you need in order to set the tone of what you're trying to get across.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
interesting work, huh?
Yeah.
Interesting way to be involved in it. And congratulate you on that. What do you see coming? And then they had HBO has things like that. They have a thing. They had the Women's Detective Agency. Did you ever see that? Number one, the Smith writing.
Yeah.
Really a good writer. It takes place in Botswana, and they set up a series.
Right. I love the HBO series. Ideally, we'd love to do something. I would prefer if I got to do television. I'd prefer it being on cable than network.
Okay, really?
I think you have a lot more. Yeah. You can do a lot more.
Best stuff's on HBO, it seems to me, because you've got the freedom, because it's they got a financial. Also, there's a good place called Public Access.
There is a great.
But I don't know whether or not that's the thing that's getting really democratic and everything. But my heart's there for whatever it is. But I really congratulate you enormously on the body of work you've done and put together.
Thank you.
And I wish you all the very, very best. I'm so glad we were able to put this together on a very snowy February.
Yeah, it was
made the spring come quickly, right? And everything. And it's a great pleasure talking to you. It's been a pleasure for you to have the wit and wisdom and the creative capability of James Lester, filmmaker. And he's particularly got the director and co-creator of this Gelber Manning in Pictures, which was brilliant. It seemed to me as I could see it. I look forward to seeing it in depth. And